Now,
You think
Michael
that's
is.
funny? Is that, are you laughing at me now already? Two
I'm not
seconds in?
laughing at you. I'm laughing with you. Now, now,
Oh,
Michael,
God.
you are by far the biggest star I've ever had, and I want to thank you for coming. First off, that's where we're
Sure.
going to begin. And I'm going to be honest, my show is just a conversation. There's only one word that's banned, so please don't use the c word because I know from your accent you're English, right? So,
C word.
c,
What's the last letter of that word?
t, and there's a un in the middle. I,
Oh,
yeah.
you mean I can't use that word?
Well, I prefer not. Just,
Now,
you
why is
can.
that? Why is that, Jesse?
Well, actually, I've had quite a few English people on the show, and I had one that was continually using it over and over and over
Can
again.
I ask you who that was?
Uh, uh, I've deleted the interview, and I honestly can't remember. I honestly can't remember, but I
No,
remember.
I've never been asked not to use a word, which
Well,
is
it's
absolutely
offensive.
fascinating. Well, I suppose it is. Shakespeare didn't think so, but
True.
let's proceed.
So we're here to promote you and who you are, but the problem is you don't need promotion. You are a superstar.
No, I'm not. I mean, God bless you. I kill people on telly and I make records and I'm on the radio. Yeah, that's it. That's all it
Okay.
is. That's all it is.
So my biggest question, I watched the little trailer for the documentary about your life that's coming out,
Right.
and my biggest question I have
Yeah.
is you grew up basically with strippers. That's what caught me most off guard, with what your mom did, right?
Well, I mean,
That
yes, you're supposing that I grew up.
Oh, okay.
Which would be a mistake.
Fair enough.
Because I think that the reason that I've hung around so long is because I never grew up. I was brought into the world in a very strange way and raised by extraordinarily avant garde, smart revolutionaries. And then I went into an education that was extremely expensive. My father was a marquis, and
Yep.
then he lost all his money and then he went to jail. But that was when I was one, and they put me down for these schools. So I've had a very sort of an ironic early beginnings to my life. I saw the streets. I saw it very, very early, what went down, how it worked. And then I went into this very sort of nailed down, hypocritical, aristocratic bullshit, which I tolerated but learned a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. So here's the thing about that, though. I don't want to talk about your past too much. We will cover your past. I want to cover what you're working on right now, what your process is for everything that you've created. How does it work? Because we want to live in the moment, right? We want people to be amazed by this episode and the inspiration that you actually are.
Here's the story. I don't think about the past at all, and I certainly don't get involved with the future. And what's left?
Now.
Right. So now I'm talking to you,
Okay.
and I'm delighted to do so. And when you say you're a superstar and all of this thing, I don't think really that way. I used to when I was like 18,
Okay.
and I used the word as a sort of a goal, a target. Fire that arrow, and the world will be mine. And I went through. I think you have to go through all of that, but with that came an enormous responsibilities and absurdities and drugs and false moves and lies and frustration. And I learned a lot from all of that. And the major lesson I've learned is stay in the moment, because otherwise, you're either living in a world of conjecture or you're living in a masturbatory past. Well, neither of those things particularly appeal to me, Jesse. So you're absolutely right to say the now. In terms of art and work, and what do I like music better than acting, and all of those questions that I usually get, I can answer them very quickly for you, and that is simply I like to express myself.
Okay.
Especially now because I'm 72. I'm 39 years sober in a couple of days. I've been through an awful lot, and I think I can share it with people without sounding like I'm preaching and sermonizing. I think the majority of my listeners in Little Steve's Underground Garage, which is 5 million people, they don't want to hear that shit. They want to hear who you really are. Anybody does. Any audience likes a performer because they like that it's the truth, that it's authentic, that you're not copying somebody, you know, and all of which is a whole other conversation. But yes, I write songs every day. I write in my book every day about what's happening, and then I pull things out of that, you know, and then extend them or throw them away or whatever. But I'm always in some kind of a creative space. And I'm not suggesting that anybody out there who isn't an artist or a musician, you know, does the same thing. You know, we can all benefit from, you know, really focusing on the now. There is nothing else. I used to call it the power of wow. You know, Eckhart Tolle's book, this brilliant book, The Power of Now. I mean, that's something I would advise anybody to read. But you know, I get such enjoyment about what's happening, not about what's happened. You know, and I've had some fantastic things happen to me, but I don't dwell on them particularly. You know, or try and repeat them.
That makes sense. I like that. I had Scott Page on a couple weeks ago from Supertramp, and he told me the same thing. It's about now. You can't do anything about the future, and you can't do anything about the past. So just let it be.
Well, yes, that's absolutely true. But I'm a hard worker, so let it be means you're going to have a nap. You know, I had a nap in August of 1973. You know. So I'm not a napper, you know what I mean? But I really like to get things going. That's why this particular dreadful virus and the pandemic that we're in and so on, and George Floyd's murder has changed things greatly. And for me, it's escalated my desire to accept what's happening, to forgive, and to create, because it's almost monastic, my life now. You know, I was saying the other day on social media that in the last 2 months, I've only looked into the eyes of 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, it's crazy that we're not connected like we should be, and it's hard.
I think it's a lesson in meditation. I think it's forcing us to go inside, and it really is propelling me into a space where there's no audience. You know, and I'm just I'm a clown. You know, when somebody shines a light on me, I'll do a couple of, you know, I'll jump through the trapeze thing and, you know, and bounce around like a rubber ball. I'll do whatever it takes to get applause. I mean, but if you know that and you own that, it's not so awful. It doesn't sound so awful. But I was born a performer. I've had to exist because I never knew my mother and father, so I was raised by these crazy people. Then I went to school and I never left the school because it was a boarding school. Shit, sorry.
No, you're good. You're good.
Hang on. It's Britt Eklund. Hi, Britt. No, I'm kidding. It's it's Dakota Johnson, who I'm actually the godfather to. But
really?
Yes, but the schools were so horrible. But I learned so much, and I stayed there. So at 16, I leave the school I do to so with love. So I came out of this restricted environment, this hypocritical British upper class environment, and went right into the movies. You know, so it's been an amazing journey, and the documentary will explain all of that and make you laugh. It's very funny, my life.
I was watching the trailer for it, and there's some amazing stuff in there. There really is.
Yeah. And a lot left out, you know. But yes, it's great. It's Josh Weinstein did it, who's a brilliant Elvis Weinstein, an incredible director and a great comedian and writer. And I met him when I was doing some sitcom, and he was a writer. And obviously, you've got a lot of time when you're doing those shows. And we talked, and he said, "I'd love to do a doc on you." And I said, "Fantastic!" And that was almost 10 years ago. So that's been going a long time. And then Stephen came in and wanted to contribute, you know, at the end of the movie, Stephen Van Zandt, my boss. And that it's a beautiful thing that he says at the end of the movie, you know. And he's a great man. I mean, I love him, you know. He's my mentor in many ways.
So over the years, you've probably answered every media question out there. Are there any questions that you have wanted people to bring up, but they never did?
Well, you know, the fascination for me with doing an interview is I usually end up interviewing the interviewer.
Yeah.
Because I'm so not bored with myself, but you do have to repeat yourself a lot. Now, I'm used to that because repetition is very interesting. When I became a DJ 6 years and 2 months ago on Little Steven's Underground Garage, Sirius XM Channel 21, I realized that we're playing the same songs, really. So then I started to get into a meditative idea of those songs can mean something completely different each time you hear them. You know that. All you
Yes,
guys out
absolutely.
there know that. It's the same thing with the Mona Lisa. You look at the Mona Lisa when you're 18 and you go, oh, yeah, I'd like to fuck her. That'd be great. Or when you're 40, you go, looks like my mum.
Mm-hmm.
So things change. And so the repetition of saying to you, telling you and your listeners what my story is actually, I learn a lot from it. But I do end up talking to people about themselves. Why did you do this, Jesse? Why did you do a podcast? Well, what is it that makes you want to find out about somebody else? Because the thing is we've got to find out who we are first. Have you done that?
I've tried. You want to know
Does that mean it's over?
No, because the discovery of self never ends.
That's right.
I know who I am right now, but 3 months from now, I could be a completely different person. Which sounds insane, but it's true.
Do you read?
I've got 2,000 books to the left of me.
So the answer is no?
I've read most of them.
I'm kidding. What was the last book you read?
Actually, I read fantasy. So like,
oh, you do? My son loves all of that. My son loves
Swords
all
and
of
Dragons. So Brandon Sanderson.
Right.
Yeah.
So you live in that world. How old are you?
I'm 35. So I'm
35.
halfway to
I'm 72.
Yeah.
So my son is very much into that world and speaks Japanese. He was in Tokyo when he was 16 and worked for Platinum Games, which is huge. And then left and wrote his own stuff. But he's always lived in that world, that Hobbit meets space.
Yep.
The dimensions and the demons, and yet some kind of like hobbity sort of sanctified peace, but with lots of demons, which pretty much describes my life. Sanctified Demons, my new band name. Thank you. Yeah,
that's
coming to your town any fucking minute. But that's good. You read a lot. So you chose fantasy, though. You don't choose biographies. You don't want to know about.
So, I when I read biographies about people I respect, a great gentleman from Scotland. The last biography I read was Craig Ferguson. He used to be one of the late night hosts.
I know who Craig Ferguson is. I know him quite well. Yeah, he's a comedian.
Yeah, and to be honest, he would be my dream interview because
I'm your dream interview. What's this? Are you kidding me? This is the biggest mistake you've ever made in your career. You're looking at an interviewee saying, I'd really like to talk to Johnny Depp. Yeah, not you. I don't want to talk to you. Fuck you. I want to talk to Johnny Depp and Craig Ferguson. No, Craig Depp. Yeah, I want to talk to Craig. How dare you? I'm deeply insulted, Jesse. Get it together.
I don't mean to insult you in any way, but here's the thing. I'm a lot more comfortable with people than most interviews, right? Most interviews are very plastic, the same questions over and over again. I don't believe in that. I believe that you need to make a connection with whoever you're talking to, and that's what what I try to facilitate, right?
And bring out of that interviewee, right?
Yeah.
So ask me something that you think it'll get something out of me.
Honestly, reading through your bio, I'm intimidated. So what is your current purpose?
Currently? To love my family and to, do everything I can to not get lost.
Now, why is that important?
Because I like to know what's going on around me rather than think about what I would like to be going on around me.
So living in the now.
Yes, but it's easy to say that, Jesse.
It's hard to do.
Jesus was cool, but you have to expound on what that means, for you, and for me. And but to ask me that, it's almost like trying to describe the moment, but the moment is over before you can answer it.
Okay.
So we just have to be.
That's fair. So get rid of the questions and just be two people having coffee together.
I try and minimize my coffee intake because I'm a maniac.
Water.
Water is good. Water is desperately important. But I think the thing is that what's going on right now is really, really important on every level. Yes, people are terrified, but at the same time, to have to deal with it is really, I think, a gift in many ways. And I
It's
believe, and
terrifying.
I'm terrified by the results of it. And when you look at the statistics and you see the racial divide and all of these things are disgusting, revolting, but I do believe that those secrets have been revealed, and they've been revealed by the by the murder of George.
George, yeah.
George's murder has changed everything because it's out in the open now. It used to be a secret. It really did. It used to be a secret up until a month ago. The whole notion of inequality.
The problem is the whole world looks at America right now with
Not
the
anymore,
issue.
brother. I've been all over Europe in this last year, and that is simply not true.
Yeah.
America has lost that, I'm afraid. Sorry to tell you, but that's not.
Well,
We are a laughing stock. We are a circus.
I'm Canadian, so I got no problem. I understand, but what I really mean is they look at America, but they don't look at themselves as well. In England, there's issues with a race divide there, and does that make sense? And in Canada, there's a huge race divide up here between First Nations and white people, and we're not looking at ourselves as well. Everybody's looking at America because it looks so bad, but it's happening everywhere. And I think people
Yeah,
need to realize
it's just the crux of it is fear.
that. Yeah,
People are scared of something they don't quite understand. So it takes work to understand inequality, and I believe that work has begun, because if you look in the streets and you see who's protesting, it's very young people, man.
Yeah.
And that is a heroic act, and that will change their psyche, and it will change the world psyche.
Yeah.
Because they're just not having it. They're just not having it anymore. And then that's what happens. We reach that tipping point. I believe that apocalyptic tipping point, which is really going to change things. And I look forward to those changes.
We're all human beings, right? Why not?
No,
treat each
no,
other with-
definitely not. I'm not a human. No, no. Yes, of course we're all human beings. Yes, indeed we are. Yeah, and it's just, I think for me, speaking to so many people and getting so much email and so much communication from people, mdbundergroundgarage.com. If you ever want to ask me a question, mdbundergroundgarage.com, ask me a question. I will answer it, I promise. No matter how intimate or how crazy or how maybe you're doubting what I'm saying, whatever, I don't care. I care about you. But so I see things changing. I really do see people seeing what is really going on rather than the fantasy,
Yeah.
a Brad Pitt fantasy,
The
all of
plastic
that.
that's been put out.
It's plastic. I suppose it's plastic. I don't even know if it's that sort of cohesive and that firm. I mean, it's rather like shaving foam,
Yeah.
perhaps, which is hard to catch.
The thing about it is you've lived through two other revolutions that were stifled. When Martin Luther King was around and the Malcolm X stuff. Is it going to catch fire this time? Or
Are you talking about race war?
Yeah.
No.
Well, not necessarily race war, but change, actual change.
Oh yeah.
versus
But that
10
didn't
years, we're
change
back to the
anything.
same.
Malcolm and Martin Luther King didn't change anything.
Okay.
They made a few people aware, but look what's happening. Look what happened look at what happens every year, annual in America.
Yeah.
Same amount of black people are killed.
Yeah.
Martin and Malcolm were moments like the Beatles. All
That's
over.
a fair assessment.
I suppose it is, but the Beatles are incorrect stereotype because they are forever. That's a cultural thing that we're allowed to. But I'm saying things come and go, real fast, and it's difficult to have Martin Luther King's philosophy when you haven't got anything to eat.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's a different perspective that we all have to look at, I think. Your documentary, that's what we're here to promote, and your radio channel, and your website. Where can people actually, when's the documentary coming out?
It comes out on July 10th, and it's streaming everywhere. And I'd love everybody to obviously see it, because I think I think it's a really interesting piece, only because my new phrase is longevity is the new black, you know, exemplified by Sir Mick Jagger. I think that, because one has been through so much heroin addiction, all of it, three wives, 82 bands, 55 record deals, 300 movies, there's a lot of stuff there, Live Aid. I mean, Live Aid in and of itself was a miracle, So I think people trust me, that I tell the truth and that I've, been through a lot. So that's a good thing, man. It makes me feel really good to be able to share this stuff. So some mistakes don't have to be made.
Do you think that's so? It obviously still happens with the younger generation, but do you think that, well, the music that's made now is very different than the music when you started? Do you
Good.
think that the meaning of the music has does it still reflect the youth of today, or do you think
Sure.
it's
I mean, if I listen to Billie Eilish, I
yes?
think she's incredible, and but she's 18,
Yeah,
so she's singing with incredible philosophical understanding. It's absolutely extraordinary how she can phrase these songs and get these songs across to her generation. Now, my generation was Pete Townsend, with a stutter,
yeah,
so it's different. Everything was velvet. Now everything's green. It's different. Um, but I relish talent. I love, and I listen to everything, man. I mean, I get sent every single, band that wants to, be on our show, and be heard, especially rock and roll bands. But also I get, emo and goth, even if those two things don't even exist. But in fact, those two things are coming back.
yes,
I can see that,
absolutely.
and somebody asked me, my dear friend Jeff Stein, who directed The Kids Are All Right, the Who's documentary, when he was 19. And he asked me, what's the difference between goth and emo? And the answer I gave him was goth, both sexes wear fishnets, and emo, no sex wears fishnets. And that's the only fucking difference. It's the same music. It's so interesting, But anyway. But new music, there's some incredible rock bands. Rival Sons,
Oh,
Struts are great. There's a lot of bands that I really like, that make great records and are in the great tradition. But there are also incredible new artists that I adore too.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's good to hear that from someone with so much experience, because quite often I've talked to the older generation, and they don't make that connection with the new music. And I'm not saying you're old, but many of them don't. They don't see the future, and I think it's everybody had to go through that.
Well, it's not about seeing the future. I'm not crystal ball gazing.
Well, yeah,
I am not even ball gazing. What I'm doing is I'm just listening to fucking music, and it's either turns me on or it doesn't. See, here's the thing, Jesse, about music. 80% of the music that I hear is derivative of somebody else.
okay,
It just has a different name, the
yeah,
band. But basically, it's you have the template. You have Zeppelin and Stones, Beatles, and then you have bands that sort of approximate that. Even big bands, but they have been so influenced by the other bands that I call them tribute bands. And there's a handful of people that come up with something new.
okay,
And Billie Eilish is that. And a lot of the music that I listen to, too, The Weeknd and Childish Gambino guy, that guy.
yeah,
These people are unbelievable lyricists, man.
yeah,
Eminem, I mean, the lyrical ability of I think musicians has increased. Because in our day it was, well, yes, scratch my back, baby, on Stones level. But I love Mick and Keith's lyrics. I think they're terrific. But
hmm,
I think the stakes are higher now for
that's
life,
awesome.
to live, to be able to live in a world that is so device oriented.
Yes,
This
absolutely.
this fucking thing becomes, the holy grail.
Well, it gives us access to everything, but
I don't
it's
want to
also
access. I want
it's
to
a leash.
find it. Yeah, I want to find out for myself, but there are rules and discipline with me with those devices. You know,
Yeah,
I'm not sitting around looking at that phone, man. You know.
that makes sense. And so many people, that's all they do all day, right? It's in the hand for
Y-
6 hours.
yes, because they're terrified, and
Yeah,
they also get arthritis in their wrists.
yeah.
You know,
Uh,
I mean, they
uh,
get arthritis in the wrists, and they get what Joe Biden just said, and what Trump is about to say, and all of the rest of it, and it's like some kind of disease.
yeah, it's trying to be connected to a
Everything at
world that,
once.
yeah, which doesn't work, right? And it puts
I
us all in
don't think
fear.
so. No. I don't think so. It's like, it's like any good relationship. It takes time to develop, and meanwhile, you're getting blasted with this info, and it goes in one ear and out the other, man, and that's no good. That leaves a hole in your head.
That's right. We are at 26 minutes. The last question I always ask everybody is, now, I know you live in the moment, but what's one thing you've done today to make yourself happy other than this interview? Because let's face it, interview was meh, but mostly
It
on
was
me.
great. It was great.
Mostly on me. But what's one thing you did to make yourself happy?
I would contest what you just said.
That happiness is a
No,
internal thing.
no, that you said this interview was kind of what you wanted it to be, but not really. And some was on
No,
me, and some was. What the fuck does that
no,
mean?
that's not what I meant at all.
That's what you said.
I said it was mediocre at best because I
So you're
self-deprecating
calling
humor.
this interview mediocre.
Well, I'm calling myself mediocre, not you,
Why?
because self-deprecation is how I deal
Not a
with my
good
own
thing, my bro. Why
insecurities.
would you deprecate yourself? Stupid, foolish. Don't do it. Your
Okay,
next interviewer, perhaps you can be kinder to. That's really
okay,
stupid.
okay,
To say that is like awkward.
okay.
So,
I accept that. No, I truly do. Thank you for that. I accept that.
sure. Have a good day.
Yes. Talk to you later. You have a fantastic day, and that's it. Holy cow.